might be
I would
different.
just like to, I'll just like to clarify one more thing. When you said, test flying, you test the limits of the aircrafts. Now, obviously, there are certain limits which are laid down by the manufacturers, right? In terms of the speeds, the G and various other parameters. So, do I understand that, you test those limits, you go beyond those limits?
See, the basic aircraft comes tested from the manufacturer. But onto this aircraft, we put in various other equipments which impinge on its aerodynamics. So
Okay,
no longer those limits which were existing before now really apply.
I
So
see.
now there is some sort of, if one way to put it, a sort of a discovery of what is the new limit with an additional payload or with an additional equipment or additional set of parameters which have either due to aging or change in the engine or a change in the structure of the aircraft which is brought about by experience or by changes in the design. So what happens is you revisit the same points which have been done by the manufacturer earlier. This is in the case of aircraft which are already in service.
Absolutely.
If one were to look at the Tejas light combat aircraft, we
Hmm.
were discovering the limits for the manufacturer because we were the manufacturers. We were
I see.
discovering each limit and we were setting about it theoretically, and a limit was established by the designers using computer data simulation and wind tunnels and so many other tools that we possess today. And these were now practically flight tested to prove that they these are the physical limits. Now there are two types of limits. One is the physical limit, at which stage something would break, and
A
the other
kind
is
of
a limit to
material.
which you can continue operating it
Okay,
without breaking it.
right.
And
A
we take
material
it to
kind
the
of thing.
limit which is above that, and then put a limit from safety point of view, a few fraction of units below what exactly the limit is.
Okay, so for on that, I think we'll talk a little later. When we talk about the LCA development, which you are very intricately involved in. Now, when we talk about the test pilot thing, uh, you have had the distinction of being the first pilot who has dropped the first laser guided bomb, and that was during the Operation Safed Sagar or Kargil War. So, understandably, the LGB hasn't come along as a natural fitment along with the Mirages. So, was there some kind of a modification carried out, some test flying carried out before that?
Uh, the Mirage had its own LGB. This was a very highly capable and very powerful LGB, which was a 1000 kg weight.
I see.
It already came equipped with that. However,
Okay.
the laser designator pod, the original fit on the aircraft, which was a French equipment, was only capable of day operation. Keeping in mind future combat, the Indian Air Force had decided to induct a day and night capable pod, which was manufactured in Israel. This contract had been signed way back in 1997. So when the war broke out in 1999, May, June, in that time period, this pod, the new Israeli pod, had not yet been inducted.
I see.
Moreover, the French bombs, as I explained before, expensive and very highly capable, and therefore designated specifically for targets in enemy territory, which were unique and very capable. Bridges, dams, and such like, which were strategic targets, so to speak.
Right.
Therefore, to use the expensive and highly capable bombs in Kargil was probably not called for. It would be like, striking a walnut with a sledgehammer, so to speak. So
I see.
therefore, we decided to use lower capability laser guided bombs, which we had procured but had not yet been qualified. So when the war broke out, we did not have a day and night pod, and we did not have a bomb which had been tested properly. I mean, you know, this sort of procedures normally take about a year and is
Mhm.
done under very controlled conditions in the laboratory. So we were now forced to induct these two capabilities rapidly because we required it in that sort of scenario in Kargil. Fortunately for us, at that point in time, our squadron, that is, we were in 7th Squadron once again. I personally was not posted to 7th Squadron, I was out of it. And similarly, 2 other test pilots who were out of it were inducted into the war zone and in the squadron. And therefore, we had a core team of 3 test pilots who were fully capable of exploiting the new configuration which had not yet been released to service for the other squadron pilots to employ. So that's where the challenge lay, and that's how we were sort of uniquely selected to drop the LGB and operate it in that at that point in time. So it's just that the capabilities existed in the aircraft, but had been modified significantly just about a few months before this whole battle started, and thus it came upon us and upon me specifically to drop the LGB, the first LGB, which was an American LGB called the PVSM, and we did it using the Israeli pod, which is called the Lightning, and it was done on the 24th of June, which is just round the corner, 22 years ago.
So I think, and all of us know it, now that it's history, that this particular thing, the drop of the first LGB, changed the course of the war.
That's not how we perceived it at that point in time when we were fighting the war. Historians and aviation experts today talk about changing the war and how it changed the war. But at that point in time, we were fighting in a conflict zone where we did not have to think about whether we would change the war or not. What we were very focused upon was making sure that the bomb went correctly to the right place and exploded. And to our elation and happiness and joy, when that happened, we were very satisfied and we felt thrilled that we achieved what exactly we set out to do.
And I think that helped greatly. It helped the army, probably the softening of the target did make a difference as far
I
as
don't think we softened the target, we actually blew it off.
Okay.
We had a bunch of about 10 enemy Arctic tents
I
perched
see.
right on the tip of Tiger Hill. And Tiger Hill, as you are aware, was a point from which the intruders who were sitting on top had a direct view of National Highway 1A, which ran from Srinagar to Leh. And because of the ability to see what was happening on that road, they could direct enemy artillery fire from across the border, across the LOC that is,
I see.
at our vehicles which were moving on that road. And thus they had effectively closed that road from operations by day. So hitting them resulted in the entire ability to see the road collapse. I mean, they were no longer in position now to see the road properly. And therefore, our flow of material and manpower to Leh and to the other parts of the battlefield at that point in time continued unhampered.
So I think, yes, of course, like you said, at that point of time, perhaps it was not known that it's going to be so effective. But today, when we look back, yes, it definitely was a turning point as far as the Kargil conflict was concerned.